Hello and welcome to our weekly Parshas here. In this series, focusing on the Torah of Shiva's Kelm, and by extension, I suppose, Mir as well. And of course, those who are with me over the weeks, normally start with dedications for people who are not well, or a dedication to celebrate Simcha. We've got really nice news. The people we normally dedicate to who've been struggling with health issues, first of all, Yecheskel Yehuda, and Yenta has returned home from surgery. I think 6 months in hospital after surgery. It's a long time. So Baruch Hashem, progress there, and very, very pleased. It's good to know that hopefully our share and our learning together, and for those of you who write down the names and include them in your davening, it's played its part. At least I hope it has. So too for Rafal Chai ben Sora, who posted the most beautiful thank you at the. If you're seeing this on my YouTube channel, it gives him a big chizuk that the share is dedicated for his refuah every single week, and you can see that in last week's, and that gave us and my wife and I, and I'm sure all of you who join in the share, tremendous chizuk too. And he's got good news as well. He's doing much better, which has made me feel very, very good too. I tried to phone just before to find out from the grandfather, one of my very dearest and closest friends, of the little boy Oria Chai ben Chana Yehudis, who is waiting for the lung transplant. If you remember, he had an infection which meant he had to go back to hospital. I've not got an update on that one, but obviously that little boy, he should have his lung transplant speedily and successfully. And lastly, we normally dedicate the share. Oh, not lastly. There's somebody called Amram Ben Sora we've been davening for, a young married man who suddenly became very ill with an infection, which turned into sepsis. And he's doing a bit better too. Oh, yes, he is doing better too. So that's three, a hat trick. And my dear wife, Ita Rivkas Esther, is coming for a complete knee replacement operation. I might as well tell you that she's doing well as well. So I think the share is really doing fine. I'm very, very pleased. This week's Parsha is the Parsha of Tetzave. Oh, I should tell you, if you want to dedicate a share for somebody's refuah or to celebrate a simcha, as usual, please send an email to yy@askrabbiyyy.com. yy@askrabbiyyy.com. Parshas Tetzave. Okay, so as it's based on, or chiefly based on this series on the Torah of Kelm, let's start with Reb Simcha Zis's greatest Talmud, Rabbi Yerucham Levovitz. Now his sefer, you remember we've talked about this before, he called it Das Chochma Musar. He simply wanted his book to be an amplification or a magnification of the ideas of his great Rebbe, Reb Simcha Zissel. And it's not an accident when you choose, when you put a book together, I know that having written a couple of books, that you want to emphasize the important bits at the beginning. You want to start with a bang, as it were. And clearly the first essay in Das Chochma Musar of Rabbi Yerucham is a remarkable essay in which he talks about human choice versus Hashem's choice. Sounds rather remarkable. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but basically what he says in this essay is that when Yaakov confronts Esau, he's terrified. When Yaakov Avinu confronts his brother Esau, he's scared for a very simple reason. You see, I'll give you a little bit of a flavor of what he says. After all, Yaakov is Yaakov. He's dispatched angels to go and see where Esau is and what's going on in his mind. I mean, who can command angels? Well, Yaakov can. Not only that, when he fords the Jordan River, he uses his stick, and a bit like a foretelling of what's going to happen at the Yam Suf, he splits the Jordan River and walks through it. So he can do miracles. So what's he worried about? So Rabbi Yerucham says that to change somebody's mind, a human being's mind, requires a much greater level of miracle than even the splitting of the Red Sea. Because the whole purpose of the creation was human beings. The whole purpose of human beings, we're not malachim, we're not angels, we're not basically algorithms, which an angel is. We are thinking and we are choosing beings. We have freedom of choice. That's our definition. That's what we're made to do. For Hashem to change the nature of water to allow it to be chopped in half, for Hashem to do any suspension of the laws of nature, everything is below human beings. So therefore, that's easier than the pinnacle of creation, human beings, because our definition, our description is freedom of choice. We're people who choose. For Hashem to suspend somebody's choice, if Esav is coming and has chosen to kill Yaakov, Yaakov doesn't know if he has this chotim, if he's got the merits, the ability to command that level. So therefore, he's scared that maybe he won't be able to do it. To change a person's mind, nature, for a person to change his own mind and nature. And I mean, change it. I saw somewhere this week, I saw this, an apology, how did this go? Apology that comes from the mind is just a verbal expression. An apology that comes from the heart means you change your behavior, which I thought was quite well. It was written better than I'm remembering it. But that's the point. To change your nature apparently is the greatest miracle of all, or for Hashem to change somebody's nature and go against his nature, the greatest miracle of all. I would like us to hold on to that thought for a second, or in the course of the shiur. Hashem changing somebody's nature, or you changing your nature? Extremely difficult thing to do. Okay, let's quickly remind ourselves what the Seder is about, a little introduction, and then we will look at two commentators in the Menorah Kedaris, nothing to do with yeshiva, nothing to do directly with yeshiva of Kelm, and that is we're going to look at the Kli Yoker, I'm going to look at the Orach Chaim HaKadosh. But let's remind ourselves, the beginning of Parshas Tetzave. V'ata Tetzave, now Hashem speaking to Moshe, V'ata Tetzave is Bnei Yisrael, and you will command the Bnei Yisrael, V'yiko elecho, and it will take to you Shemen Zayas, pure olive oil. And the pure olive oil, of course, is going to be used for the Menorah, and for various other things in the Beis Hamikdash. Kos is lamor la'alas ner tomid for the Menorah, and it has to be. It's going to cause a light to leap up, which is and will be a ner tomid. Okay, Rashi says that the oil has to be not produced from olives by grinding them in a grinding wheel. Just has to be squeezed, because there mustn't be any residue, pieces of tiny bits of olive in the oil. It has to be perfect. And they've got to take it for Moshe. So Moshe, says Rashi, in order to check that it's the right quality of oil. Okay. Ba'oil moed, so the alos there tomid, be'oil moed, and it says, where is this menorah going to be? In the oil moed, the tent of the assembly, mechutz l'parachas, outside the parachas that separates the Holy of Holies, in which the ark containing the luchais, the tablets of stone, the two tablets, the ones that are broken, ones aren't broken, is contained. Mechutz l'parachas will be the menorah is outside that. Shar alo edus, which is the parachas, which is covering the edus, the yarach, I say, covering the Holy of Holies, or the ark. And yarach, so that's where you arrange this menorah. I saw Aaron Bonov Me'erev Bakar, and Aaron and his children will do this. That's in other words the role of the Kohen Gadol, the role of the Kohanim, to make sure the menorah is lit. Lifnei Hashem, before Hashem, good. Then, and then it goes on and it says again, "Ata hakriv elecha," and it will take to you as Aaron achicha, Aaron your brother, as bonav, and mitzvah bnei Yisrael lakano li. So then, there's the process by which Aaron will appoint. There will be an induction of the Kohanim, Aaron and his sons to be the Kohanim of the Jewish people. That's the next bit. That's what we're going to be looking at now. So, having said that, I read that. As I said to you, let's look at the Kli Yoker. Kli Yoker has got several questions. I don't often quote the Kli Yoker. The Kli Yoker is very similar in style to the Alshach. The Alshach predated the Kli Yoker, but it's a very similar style. He very often will ask several questions and then give answers. His answers often are very similar, if not identical, to the Alshach. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful, wonderful commentary. And if you like that style, if you've been coming to my shiurim, you will be exposed to the style of the Alshach, then you will find a similar style in the Kli Yoker, and it's much more compact, so it's easier to get to answers than it is perhaps with the Alshich as well. Fine, good. So he's got two questions to ask you. The first one is the obvious question, and everybody asks this. Our first posuk, command the Jewish people, Shem and Zayas, to bring you pure olive oil, to light up a single light, a near tomid, of course, in front of the ark in any synagogue, and of course, all Orthodox synagogues are based or inspired by the design of the Mishkan and the Beis Hamikdash. But of course, there is a near tomid. You have it in every show. Sometimes beautifully designed. It should be a near tomid. Sometimes you see lots of lights. I'm afraid that's missing the point, rather. Near tomid singular. But let's focus on that. But the menorah was not a near tomid. It's 7 branches. So it should be nerot tomidot. It should be in the plural form. Why is it a near tomid? So that's the first obvious question that he asks. And then it's he says that you've got to bring this to be outside the parochos. Why does it have to specify that it's outside the parochos, outside the curtain that separates the Holy of Holies from the rest of the Mishkan? We know that. It's already been stated. So why does it have to restate it here? Why does it have to be outside? So there's going to be two remarkably interesting answers which he provides us with, which I think will be worthy of our attention. So let me read to you a little bit from the Kli Yakar. And when I look at the Kli Yakar, he says the following thing. Okay, in Hitzrach HaKadosh Baruch la'asas gam bechichel nes tomid ze b'ner marav kadidei kulam yistaklo boy v'yiro me'ner marovi shem Hashem. So he says a tremendously interesting thing here. With regards to the miracles that took place where the ark with the luchot, the 10 commandments were placed, those were miracles which were, well, all the laws of nature are suspended in that particular geographic location. But nobody got to see it apart from the Kohen Gadol. Very few people get to see that. Therefore, there had to be a miracle that would take place outside. Now, the Ramban says, what is the miracle that takes place with the menorah? Why is it a near tomid? He's got a different explanation, and he says, the near tomid is one light, the light of the 7 branches, the westernmost light, that remained a near tomid. That never went out. The rest of the branches, the other 6 branches, the 6 cups with the oil and the wicks, they did go out in a natural way, and had to be the oil replenished and relit every single night by the Kohanim. But they lit it from the near tomid that never went out. And the near tomid that never went out, that was the one that's why it says here near tomid, that everything will be ignited from it. So now we know what a near tomid is, why it's in the singular, when, as we said, it should be in the plural. Secondly, why is it outside the parochos? He said, because that miracle, or all the miracles that you could see if you're the Kohen Gadol going into the Holy of Holies, that's not apparent to the rest of the Jewish people. And, says the Kli Yakar, and it's important that they see that the Shekhinah, the presence of God, is with you too, in every place. So this was outside, and it's lit both day and night, which is, we don't need candles lit during the day, but it's to show you that this light's never going out. The near tomid never goes out. It was an open miracle. So you need an open miracle. We need in our lives sometimes an indication that Hashem is on your side. Sometimes we need a little smile, a little wink from heaven to let us know that we're on the right track. And that's exactly what Yaakov Avinu, I mentioned before, when he has the dream, the ladders are going up to heaven, and then he famously says, if Hashem will give me clothes to wear and food to eat, then he'll be for me as a God, and I'll keep my side of the bargain. Rough translation. That sounds as though he's making conditions. No, he's trying to tell us that if you can see the Yad Hashem in your life, the hand of God in your life, then that makes it so much easier to be a successful Jew, a successful human being. So we all need that little bit of encouragement. The fact that miracles are going on behind the parochos, nobody's going to see that. Outside the parochos, outside the curtain, and that inspires everybody else as well. But let me read to you another thing he says. And I think this is going to be very critical for our discussion and why we started with Rabbi Yerucham, who says how hard it is for a person to change their nature. It says in Menorah, the truth of the matter is, Parshas Emor, in the book of Vayikra, that's what really deals with the menorah and all this, the laws that are really only sketched here. The real full dealing with it is over there. So why is it here? And he says, Ki im b'Parshas Emor, it's mentioned in Parshas Emor, Shom ikar mokum shel tziva zu. That's really when the Torah is addressing the requirements for the lighting of the menorah. Ikar tziva al ner marodi v'zeh legalas l'moisha ki apol pisha parochas mechasas Aaron v'idis mekol mokum yiyu gam mokum hakadosh hanesim tomid b'fasam ki Hashem shochem shama. And he repeats, as I said to you before, the idea that it was necessary for people to see Hashem in their lives. And it's also with regards to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is the one, and he quotes a passage, but I'm missing bits out or will be too lengthy, that every miracle that happened came through Moshe Rabbeinu. Every miracle that happened in the history of the Jewish people comes through Moshe Rabbeinu. And he says that Moshe Rabbeinu, ki hotzel mimeno shefa ruach hakodesh al kol hanavim shabo achrav ki pnei Moshe kechama. That is to say that Moshe Rabbeinu, on his level, the level he had reached, inspired, transferred itself to every subsequent prophet who came along. That he would pass one to the other. There would be a shalshelis, a chain of prophecy. And Moshe's prophecy, being at the zenith, would transform itself or transfer itself, at least in part, to every subsequent prophet who would come. That's what the Kli Yoker has to say. And he says, therefore, that's why this Vayikol Alecho is going to take to you the oil which is going to burn, which is going to show the presence of Hashem, because through you, through the prophets that you're going to generate and inspire, then too, the presence of Hashem will be seen. Fine. But the Orach Chaim HaKodesh says something which is very, very interesting. So I just turn across to the other page, and I'll read a little bit to you from here. And he says, interesting, the Zohar Chodesh says, Gidalad Gonil Shal Yisrael, the 4 exiles of the Jewish people, Kol Echad Mehem Nigalo Mimeno B'Schus Echad. The Golus ended, the exile ended. The Jewish people were redeemed and able to go back to the land of Israel in one merit, through one merit. And what was the merit? An individual. And he says, Golus Rishon, the first exile of the Jewish people, Nigla B'Schus Abram. The first exile ended for the Jewish people in the schus of Abraham. The second was B'Schus of Yitzchak. And the third, B'Schus Yaakov. But the fourth, the one that we are in now, Tode B'Schus Moshe. That depended on the schus of Moshe. Malazen is and is aretz hagolos ki kol eliyed she'ein oskim b'Torah b'mitzvah u'b'mitzvahs ein Moshe chofetz hagolos ad b'Torah min Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu was going to be the key one, the key factor to get us out of this particular exile. But oil, in Kabbalistic thought, is a metaphor for Torah. And let me be quite straight about this, because my Charusa and I were having a big fight about this just recently. And that is, the purpose of Torah is to bring a person to change, to bring a person close to Hashem. Go back to that saying, that extract I saw somewhere about, change. Real change is not saying sorry with your mouth from a thought that you've had from your mind, but something that's changed within you, that you've actually changed and a metamorphosis has occurred. So the Torah that we're talking about is not just the studying the Torah as an academic exercise, but studying of Torah so that you actually become a different person and change. So the reason he says that this exile has gone on so much longer than the exile of Greece and the exile of Babylonia and the exile of this one out, Persia. Thank you. The reason for that is because we've not really made it part of us that we changed. So if Moshe, who is Mr. Torah, has not, and we're going to be we're going to be brought out of this Golus through Moshe Rabbeinu, when he doesn't see the Torah in us, or doesn't see the change in us, then he doesn't see any need to, as it were, end the Golus for us. Very, very astonishing Orach Chaim HaKodesh. Fine. Okay. With that as really the introduction of the setting up of the Shir, let's turn to Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, Rosh Hashiva of the Mir. And we've met him as one of the descendants from Kelm and and Kelm through Rabbi Rucham into the Mir in previous sharing. He has a beautiful, beautiful essay. You'll find this in page Reish Tes Zion of his fabulous sefer, Sichos Musar. So in Sichos Musar, he says the following. He points to the fact, says, Tetzave to Israel, and they'll take the oil to you. And it doesn't make any sense. Can't they take the oil to Aaron? After all, Aaron's going to be using the oil. Rashi's explanation is they take the oil, as we said before, for Moshe to inspect it to make sure it's the oil of a sufficiently pure quality that it doesn't have any poselus in Hebrew, any residue, any tiny bits of the actual olive in it. And Reb Chaim Shmulevitz says that's very interesting, a very interesting explanation, but just slightly troubling. Are you trying to tell me there's nobody in the whole of the whatever number of Jews they're going to be 3 million, whatever it is, who are not able to tell whether it's clear, pure oil? It seems strange. So he says that's why Rashi says take it to you for you to inspect it. Elecha. But there's another pasuk which we looked at, and that was the pasuk. It says a little bit further on, Kafches, is Aaron Achicha. And as we said, you'll take with you Aaron, your brother. And again, it's Elecha, we brought to you. So we bring the oil to Moshe, and you bring Aaron, your brother, to Moshe for him to be inducted into the role of being the Kohen. So this is gorgeous and beautiful Torah indeed. Here, Reb Chaim Shmulevitz quotes David HaMelech in Tehillim. It's Tehillim in Kuf Lamed Gimel, 133, and it's Pasuk Aleph and Beis, and it's a very, very famous Pasuk. It says, Hine matavim anoin, how beautiful and how pleasant it is, Sheves Achim Gam Yachad, when brothers live together as one. Gam Yachad, and the next Pasuk says David HaMelech, I'll give you a metaphor. Kashem and Atoiv al Harosh, it's like beautiful pure oil, which is on the head, Yored al Hazokin, which drips down the face of a man onto his beard. Zokin, Aaron, which Zokin, the beard of Aaron, Yored al Pi Midosav, which runs down through his face. Fine. And Reb Chaim Shmulevitz is intrigued by the fact it says Zokin twice. So listen to what he says. Quotes a medrash. The cause of shtei pamim zokin. The reason it says zokin twice, the vishahoyo al zokin Aaron ki ilu hoyo al zok ezakeno shal Moshe. The two beards. And which oil is it pouring down the face? It's pouring down from the head of Aaron when he is being created the Kohen Gadol. They poured oil. We do that incidentally. The King of England, the new King of England, King Charles, when he is the Christian monarchs stole it or copied this from the Torah, they pour oil on the head of a monarch, and so basically it runs down onto the beard of two beards: the beard of Aaron, the man who's been made the Kohen Gadol, and the beard of Moshe. But Moshe is not underneath his brother's chin, so the beard falls, the oil falls on his beard. So what is that talking about? Because of the tremendous achdus, the unity, the love that existed between the two brothers, Aaron and Moshe, he felt as he was pouring the oil onto Aaron's head, making him the Kohen Gadol, that he was being made the Kohen Gadol. That he was being made the Kohen Gadol. Sounds odd. It was dropping onto his beard. That's the extent of the achdut, of the love between the two brothers. Now, there's an interesting concept. I don't know if you're at all musical, but there's an interesting concept. It's called intonation in music. And that is if you take two musical instruments and you tune them to the exact same pitch, so the exact same note, the exact same pitch, and then let's say take two violins and you bow the first string of one of the violins, but both sets of strings have been tuned to the exact to be literally exact same as each other. Then the strange thing is, when you start bowing the first string of the first violin, the first string of the second violin, which may be just a foot away, which you're not touching at all, it starts to vibrate and you get the exact same note coming from the violin that you're not touching. Of course, that's called, it's resonating, resonance. In other words, the exact same pitch. Now we're talking about, hertz and reducing it to almost mathematics and science. But when that frequency of air is being disturbed, and through the note vibration of that string, that's causing the air to vibrate the other string at the exact same moment. You can have two which are so as one that one reacts with the other. And this is a physical phenomenon. Well, it's also can be a physical phenomenon between two Jews, two brothers. And that's an unusual statement, two brothers, because as Rakesh Malev has just said, that's the story. It's talking about Moshe and Aaron. As we all know, that Moshe's reluctance to accept the job of going to save the Jewish people. And he says, Hashem, please send the one who, choose the one to send that you will send. But Rashi says that's the one he always sent, because Aaron, who was his older brother and his superior, till that point, no, you're the person for the job. He didn't want to do it because he didn't want to upset his brother, because he saw his brother as seeing himself. That's the oil from one to the other. That's the same idea, that basically they resonate with each other completely. Rachaim Shmulevitz goes on, and maybe I'll read a little bit more to you. We all know of the lighting of the menorah, or rather the dedications brought to the light for the lighting, the creation of the menorah, and the eventually lighting of the menorah. All the tribes donated except one tribe, which was the tribe of Levi, which was, of course, Aaron's tribe. And Aaron got upset, famous statement. Aaron was distressed about this. To which famously Moshe says, the Ramban explains this at length, yours is going to be greater than theirs, because the menorah will only, the offerings they're bringing is for a menorah which only lasts in the first base of Mikdash 210 years, the second one 220 years. But yours will last forever, because yours will be, of course, the menorah of Hanukkah, which is 8 branches, and that will last forever. But Moshe himself could be upset by this, could he not? Because he's from the tribe of Levi. He's equally upset, surely, that he's playing no part in this, except that he feels he is. So let's read that a little bit more. You should know that Aaron was upset. He was upset until Kadosh Baruch Hu says to Aaron, your part is going to be greater than those, because you're going to light the Hanukkah menorah. But Av Moshe Rabbeinu koilo b'piyasu, but Moshe Rabbeinu should also have been comforted by that. Ki hadlok Aaron esaneres ki ilo hadlok Moshe, because the lighting of the menorah done through Aaron, well, and every other tribe's bringing, except the tribe of Levi, well, that's Moshe's tribe as well. But Aaron's got comfort. Where's Moshe's comfort? Well, but bearing in mind what we said up till now, so as we said before, when the pasuk says that they will v'yikcho elecho, when they will take the oil for the gifts for the creation of the menorah, when all the tribes brought theirs, they bring it to him, to Moshe. And what does that mean? Well, that means that they bring it, it's as though he's doing it. He sees it. If they're doing it, then he's doing it as well. The resonance of Moshe and his brother, in Moshe's case, extends beyond his immediate family. The success and the achievements of the rest of Klal Yisrael, he sees as being his achievements. Now, that's very interesting. Because people don't normally do that. People don't normally do that. As Recham Shmulevitz says, Moshe and Aaron's relationship is Sheves Achim Gam Yachad. He saw his brother as though his brother was him. And that's, of course, they became like Ki'ish Echad B'Lev Echad. They were like one people who were one body, two brothers, but the same body, essentially the same person. That's exactly what happened to Klal Yisrael when they got the Torah. When they got the Torah at Mount Sinai, they were Ki'ish Echad B'Lev Echad. That was the only time in Jewish history when the Jewish people were so united that Torah could be given. Now go back to the Orach Chaim. The Orach Chaim says that Moshe Rabbeinu is the catalyst who's going to get us out of this galus. Each galus ends through the, as it were, heavenly intervention, or maybe it's the earthly intervention of us copying the behavior of Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, or Moshe. In the case of Moshe, though, he is Torah, and the Torah that we would have to manifest that reflects him and therefore gets his intervention to get us out of this galus would have to be his sort of Torah, his sort of mitzvahs that changes you to get you to be the person or the sort of people that were there when you got the Torah in the first place. Ki'ish Echad B'Lev Echad. Moshe Rabbeinu feels that. Oh, but there's a Gemara, and the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Kuf Hey on the base says, everybody is jealous of every other person except their children and their Talmidim. If you're superseded by the achievements of your Talmidim or the superseded by of your children, you're not jealous because you think upon them as being you. It's your Talmud. Their success is your success. And your pride. Your child's success is your success and your child because you see them as being an extension of you. Therefore, there is no room for jealousy. But for that to happen, you really have to feel yourself as though they are you and you are them. My left hand resonates like the violin with my right hand. You know, I can make them move in the exact same way. In fact, just doing that, which I've never done and seen myself doing that before, they are, from my thoughts, just duplicated in each and every one of them. Because it comes from one thought. It comes from one mind. If you see yourself as part of the same body, the body of Klal Yisrael, then that's an easy thing to achieve. So why does it say, take them for Elecha? Because everything comes from Moshe Rabbeinu. All Nevi'as comes from Moshe Rabbeinu. But the outstanding thing about Moshe Rabbeinu is he saw himself to be the same as everybody else. Basic human being. All human beings are jealous of everybody. And how can you ever change your nature? You can't change your nature. Moshe Rabbeinu changed his nature. Moshe Rabbeinu became the person who sees himself as everybody else, and everybody else is an extension of him. When he comes to complain to Hashem that the Jewish people are, and of his treatment of the Jewish people, is why have you done bad to the Jewish people? The Malachim wanted to kill him, and Hashem says, no. He's only saying what they're saying. He is the spokesperson, the mouth of the Jewish people. That's what they're feeling. He's only expressing what they feel because he feels himself as them and they as him. Then, of course, it's legitimate for him to bring me that complaint, says Hashem, because he's become one with the Jewish people. That means to say he's factored out the inevitable jealousy that we normally feel of everybody else's achievement, which we haven't achieved. He doesn't feel that. And the reason is because in Talmud Devorah, which of course Talmud Devorah is the book which takes the 13 midas of Hashem and shows us how we're supposed to copy, emulate, and repeat them in our everyday life, then he famously says, and if you see another Jew who is successful, you should never be jealous of them. Because, and here's the Hebrew, ki hu mamish, because he is you. You can transform yourself. We learn from Moshe, all Nevi'as comes from Moshe. We can learn to copy Hashem, because Moshe was able to do that. And Hashem would give us mitzvahs if we couldn't, and we weren't able to do it. Moshe sees himself as the same as Aaron. The oil that they're bringing for Aaron to light the menorah, he sees it. They're bringing it to you because you see yourself the same as Aaron. It's possible for a Jew to work on themselves to get rid of jealousy and actually see themselves as part of one whole. Somebody else's success reflects on me. I love them all because I'm part of the same body. And that means that the resonance of one affects the other in a positive direction. And then Moshe Rabbeinu is saying that we're taking his Torah seriously to allow us to change him change ourselves to become like him, or indeed let the generation ends this exile. And that's an exciting idea. I wish you all a wonderful Shabbos, and I'll see you, Hashem, next week.